When you're working with databases, you think of these databases like filing cabinets. In the filing cabinets, you have different tables, which may be different folders. And then in these folders, you have different sheets, which, again, might be the tables with charts on them and tables on them of rows and columns. So you've got all this information stored. And the database is sort of a place to store information. Now, not only does it store it well, and does some special things to protect you and allow for rollback if you've got those features set up, but it also has a way of giving you back information, helping you analyze the information you have in there, the data you have in there. One of these is the query. You couldn't go up to a filing cabinet and say, hey, I'd like to know all the records you have in there that pertain to such and such or some item. It just would sit there and not do anything. But a database, you can, if you use the right language, you can go ask them questions like that, and the database will return to you a table with that information in it. We call this a query. Query meaning questioning, and we are questioning the database for information. Now, in Access, it's fairly easy to set up these queries. We do use a special language. We use something called Structured Query Language, SQL, and it's usually pronounced SQL. This is something you should be aware of in databases when you're doing this. The web is any information stored out in the web, in the World Wide Web, is probably stored in databases. When you do a search on Google, you're not searching the whole world over, you're searching a database. So it's important you become familiar with databases, especially if you want to become a webmaster or do web type work or do programming on the web, because you need to understand how to work with databases. Queries are extremely important. That's how you get information from a database or how you put information into a database. You manipulate databases with SQL. Now, Access, you don't really need to learn SQL. I'm going to show it to you, but you don't need to really learn it because Access is mostly just setting up the forms. And in Access, a query looks like a table. Doesn't look any different. But it doesn't duplicate the information in any way, and it doesn't make it super large. It doesn't increase the size of the database by very much, because all you do is store the instructions for the query. You do not have to restore all the data in a separate table, even though it looks like a separate table. So I'm going to use this as an example, and you're going to do the same thing on your friends table. You're going to make me a query to show me some things. And queries are useful not only in that, but in calculating some things also. So let's take a look at our friends first of all. Here's our friends table. And of course, I have many records in there, and by now you should probably add more records so your query looks reasonable. And let's say, looking down here, I'm going to pick something that has a number of the same entries in it so I can see this. We've got states here. Now let's see. If you notice, there's some states that have, like Arizona and this. Let's say as a question I wanted to ask, could you give me the name and phone number and maybe the birth date of all people in Arizona, all my friends in Arizona? Okay, not too difficult. Let's go try that. So first of all, we have to go over here to the side and we have to make a query. So I'm going to drop down, and as you can see, queries. I'm going to open them up, and of course we do have a couple of queries already here in my example. I'm going to go ahead and make another one just for the fun of it. I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to come across to, where is it? Pivot chart, data, form, split, design, tables, list, others. Queries, yes. Now, I really don't want to do Query Wizard. When you're doing tables and you're doing queries, it's best to just go in and do the design. It's simpler, all right? But when we're doing forms, like in this section, and we're doing reports, like in this section, then it's better to use the wizard because there's so many steps in doing it. The wizard helps us get through those, and then later we can go in the design area and tweak it a little bit. So we're going to just use the query design. I'm going to click on this. It's going to come up with a blank thing like that, and it's going to ask me to add some tables up in here. Okay, I can do that. Let's see, the only table I want at this time is I just want the club, I just want the friends table. So I'm going to add it. and then I'm going to close it. And what it does then is it puts these fields available, and that creates one of the commands. So let's see. What were the things I wanted? Well, in my query, I wanted to know the names of the people in a certain state. I wanted their phone numbers and birth dates. Okay, so let's do that. I can take, add, and if you look down here, there's fields. Now, if I can drag this from here right down and drop it in the field area, and it tells me right there, field, first name. I'm going to get that. Now let's do the last name. Now, let's see if I can do this. If I double-click, what happens? Let's see, I wanted to do name. I'm going to have to look at state, right? So let's double-click state. Look, it comes down to the next place. So you can just double-click them. How about I wanted phone and I wanted birthday. Now notice I'm skipping a lot of stuff up here. I don't need a lot of it. So this is going to be a specific query. Well, yeah, we can take a look at it right now. You can do that with a run, or you can view it as a table, which will run it automatically for you. And I think it's going to make me name it before I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do a... I'm going to run it, and let's see if it comes up with a name. No, it just came up with that. All right, but look, you see? I've got everybody in the table. I don't have just the Arizona ones. All right, so let's go back. All right, let's go back to the design view. And let's go ahead and save this thing. Let's see, can I save it? Yeah, it's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to make this selected. Phone and birthday. PH phone and birthday. All right, so okay, now I've got that query saved. Now remember, I told you I only wanted to look at the ones from Arizona. So here's how we do that. We come down to this criteria line, and the criteria line, if you do this, is going to do an and, this one and this one. If you want to do or, you go down a line, the or part. So you can do like something or something. So I'll show you that in operation too. So let's see, state, I wanted Arizona, and as I recall, they were like capital, shift, capital A, capital Z, right? All right. And if you click off of that, you see it puts quotes around it to indicate that it's a string. So let's take a look at it now. Let's run it. Those are all the ones from just Arizona. And I have their phone numbers and their birth dates. I don't know what type of a phone number that is. That's kind of strange, but that's all right. All right, so that's one way to use a query, is to select out information that you need to be able to find only certain types of things. All right, let's go back in Design View. Let's see. Let's show you the OR feature here. Let's say I wanted Arizona or California. So if a person is in either Arizona or California, it will give me that on the list. So let's do California. That would be CA. All right. And I'm going to click down. You see there's lots of ORs down through here, so you can do lots of ORs. All right, so I've done that. Let's go back and run it and see what we get. There we go. All the Arizonas, all the Californias. All right. Let's say I wanted it sorted alphabetically by state. Okay. Again, a query can do that. So let's go back to Design View, and you notice it says Sort field here. So I can go Sort, and you drop down. And what do I want? I want to sort on state, and I want ascending. Ascending is alphabetical order. Here's an easy way to remember that. Ascending starts with an A, alphabetic starts with an A. So that would be in alphabetical order. All right, so now it's going to sort alphabetical order according to state. Let's see that. Yep, all the Arizonas first, all the Californias second. Okay? We could, if we wanted to, get it to sort by name. All right, let's go back for a minute and take off that sort. You see how nice this is? I can do a lot of different things here. I'm going to put not sorted by that field. And let's sort it by last name. Okay, and again, alphabetically. Okay, so here goes. Run. There we go. By last name. That's this column here, folks, not the first column. All right. Now, if I want to sort in a certain order, I have to flip these two columns around. If I wanted to sort last name then first name, I'd have to flip them around, because the way Access works is it does the order you have the columns. Okay, so let's just do that, because if I did it the other way, it'd be sorted by first name then last name. Let me show you that, okay? Let's sort also ascending first name. All right, now this is the two sorts, and I'm going to run it. And you'll see it's sorted by first name, then by last name. That's not the way we really want it. Okay, so let's go back and try changing that around. Let's see if I do this. If I hold down and get my little white arrow, I can drag that column back here. There we go. In it goes. Now let's see what happens when I run it. I've changed the columns around, and yeah, last name sorted, then first name. Okay, so if you have two the same in last name, which you can't really see here. What if I want it sorted by state and within state last name? Okay, then again, I would need to put state first. So let's just do that. Let's see. I got to get back here. Come on. Oh, I got to go into this before I can change things around. Here we go. State, and move it over to first position. Now I'm going to sort it ascending. And so what it'll do is it'll sort first by state, then last name, then first name. So I'm going to run it. There we go. State, last name, first name. All right, so this is one thing queries are used for. Another thing queries are used for is to do some arithmetic. Now, let me show you that. And let me show you about joining queries too. Let's say I wanted to find out how much each member had based on club dues and other things. All right. So we're going to make a new query now. I'm going to close this query. Okay. And yes, I want to save those changes. Okay. And let's close this one too. Let's see, what's this? This is a friends. This is the database. I don't need that open. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to create, and I'm going to create a query in design view. And this time I'm going to take both of these because they're linked, aren't they? I'm going to add that one, and then I'm going to add this one. And when we do that, we see the linkage between these two. Okay, and of course the club has the information of the dues. Okay, I close this now. All right, let's say what I want to do is I want to get the last name, then the first name of each person. Then I want to get amount of money owed. Okay. I would also like their club name, and I'd like to get their dues. Now you see I'm taking things out of two tables because I showed you last time how we relate two tables together. So here we're linking two tables and relating two tables together. And what this is going to do is it's going to line up the dues for each person and put those online. All right, let's go see what this looks like. First, let's save this. We're going to call this club's dues table. Okay, we're going to call this dues table. How about dues query? And it's sometimes nice to put the name that it's a query, and that way you can see it when it comes up. So we got dues query up there. All right, let's try and run this and see what happens. Now remember, we're doing everything. I haven't put any criteria down here, so we're doing everybody. So here we go, and yeah, look at that. See, the dues and the club name came over from the club table, and you can work that the same way. So this is the way to link data together, and it looks just like a table, but not an extra piece of data has been put on the screen. Okay. Now I'm going to try and show you what this looks like. Okay. Here's SQL View, and what it's going to show you is the command that's actually being given. And there it is. Unfortunately, it's extremely hard to see this small, but basically, it's the select command. There's several commands in SQL, and the select command allows you to bring out and view information from a database. It allows you to retrieve information from a database. So I'm selecting friends dot last name, friends dot first name, friends dot club. Okay, so I'm selecting all those fields, okay, from the club table, right join to the friends table on, and it's sorted on club table, club number equals friends. So basically the right join is linking up so that when the club table, club number equals the friends dot club number, then they're linked together, those two fields. When you get used to using SQL, and it's pretty easy to use, you can write these statements by hand. You don't even need to go and use this. And on the internet, a lot of times when you're programming web pages, this is the type of SQL statements you'll be writing. Select. You can put data in by using the insert. You can update data using an update query. Okay, there's an update query. You can delete data from a database by using the delete query. So there's a lot of things to do. But we're not here to teach you that. We're trying to get you to see how to work this stuff in a simple manner. All right. Now I've got two columns here. Let's go back to the table view. I've got two columns here with money in it. Money owed, okay, and dues. Now let's just say I wanted to know what the difference between the dues and the money owed. So I'm going to do a subtraction here, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, I'm going to do a subtraction here. So I'm going to come up and make another column here. So I'm going to create another column, which is a subtraction of this minus the dues. Okay, I'm going to take this minus the dues, which some cases is going to be negative, some cases is going to be positive. All right, so I'm going to go back into my design view. All right, and then I'm going to come right over to here. I'm going to right-click on that thing and come down to the build. Now, I like to use the build. There's a number of ways of doing this, but the build seems to be the simplest. If you have saved your table, and you've got to save it in order to see the fields come up here. And so what do I want to do? Well, in this particular one, and you have a name here, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. You should have a name first and a colon or a semicolon. I can't remember which. That's why I'm going to get to it in a minute. I want to take the money owed, so I'm going to double-click that. See how it goes up there? I'm going to hit the minus sign on my keyboard, or you can hit the little minus sign right there. You see they got all the multiplications there. They got a bunch of logical things here. And I'm going to subtract the dues from it. Okay. And I'm going to say OK. Now that's a formula right in that thing. Now notice, out in the front, see how down here it says X bar, and then there's a colon? You need that colon, but this is where I could change the name. Let me just run it like this first, and then I will change the name and show you where it's at. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. There we go. And look, I've got a column called X bar. All right. And coming down here, you can see it's got numbers, because if you have 10 minus 3, that's 7, and 77 minus 3 is 74. Okay. And then look, here's a negative one. Parentheses, typical business. Okay, what if let me see what I can do about that. Let's go back to view. Now, first of all, that X bar. Let's go back one more time and look. All right. X bar. That's the name of my column. Gosh. I would like this to be difference or something like that. You know, and you can choose whatever name you want. So I got to be careful and leave the colon there. And I'm going to type the word D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. Did I type that right? D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. Yep. And then that's going to be the name of my column now. So let's see. What can I do? I'm going to right-click and come to Properties. Okay. So where did my properties go? Oh, probably turned them off since they were probably already up there. Yep, that's what I did. All right, I'm going to pull this out a little bit so I can see the properties. Format. Let's go to the Format Properties and drop this down. Oh, let's see. I need it a little bigger here to see that. All right, well, let's see. What do I have? Properties. Currency, maybe, huh? Click on currency. All right, that makes a nice property. Okay, let's see if that made any difference. Save it and run it. Well, I can't see much difference. I was hoping to turn these red, but I don't think I have that feature here in the database. I might. I probably do somewhere. That'll automatically turn those red. Let's go back to design. One little quick one again. Currency. General number, currency, fixed euro, standard, scientific. Interesting. Nope, doesn't seem to allow me in the currency area. Let's see, what about decimal? Decimal place, you can specify how many decimal places you want. So I'm going to specify 2. All right. Input mask, caption tag. I think that's good enough, though. So we're working with data. We're not trying to make an accounting sheet like we were in spreadsheets. So, and there's probably some place in here where you could find that information. All right, so there's one place. I've got difference. Let's just take another look at it and see. See, it says the word difference up here now, and we got it done with dollars. You notice it had dollars before, because this minus this would be both dollars. Let's say I want to do an interest. All right, so let's go back to view. I'm going to make another column here. All right, right-click, come down to build. Now let's say I wanted to do the interest on this difference here. And you see I pushed the save and that got the difference up here. So this difference I want to find out what the interest is. And let's say I'm just going to do a straight simple interest of 3%. Alright, so I'm going to double click this. I'm going to put the time sign, which is multiplication, and then I'm going to put 0.03, which is 3%, right? And that's going to give me 3% interest. Alright, so let's say OK. And again, if I run it, look, it's going to have an X bar up here, which is what it automatically puts in, and it doesn't have dollar signs on it. Okay, so let's go back in view, and let's, first of all, change the X bar to interest. Come on. What happened here? Redo it. Alright, let's see. Here we go. X bar. Here we go. Interest. So we got interest in there now. And again, let's go get our formatting and drop down and have currency. Sure. And let's see. Let's save it again. And now let's run it. And now you see we've got our interest. So that's another way you can use it, by creating columns. And when you do this and create a column, of course, the SQL becomes a whole lot more complicated. You can see friends, money owed. Here we go. Difference. Okay, so they created this column, dues, as difference, and we did difference, and then we did interest as interest, difference times 3 as interest, and then this one was negative as difference. So you can create columns by knocking them on like that and putting them on like that. Okay, so your job will be to add a couple of queries. You're going to have enough members in your database now, like about, I think I'm going to ask you to put 15 people in your database and your friends, and join them to one of the organizations there. And then I want you to go ahead and do a query which just, first of all, do a query which just finds shows which organization the person is in and gives their name and maybe their birth date, okay, for the organization. Then the next thing I want you to do is do a query that kind of adds money and finds out what their dues are and how much they owe.